back,
Right.
and he was in the 27th Marines. I was in the 28th Marine. The 13th Marine Regiment. We were the artillery support for the 28th Marines.
What battery were you in?
H&S Battery.
Okay.
And there's where I met Captain Austin. He was head of our comm section, and his dad was a large tobacco farmer in Tennessee, Greenville, Tennessee, and they had farms in South America and Mexico and in Philippine Islands and Indonesia, and they'd had farms all over the place. They were millionaires. He was a Harvard graduate, had his master's in business from Harvard. But old Austin, he was a champion of a man, and he just would put up with us. And one guy, a guy by the name of Egebrick, he went on liberty before we were to, as we were getting ready to leave the States. They had sent us this little furlough, and they told us we shouldn't go 1,000 miles away, more than 1,000 miles at the most, but not even 1,000 miles, because we might not be able to get back. We may need to send out early or something. And so anyway, he went to Chicago. He caught a bomber out of someplace, and he was just a little squatty guy. I used to go on Liberty with him a couple of times, and I remember one night we were up in L.A. and we were getting ready to catch the bus back to Camp Pendleton, and we walked by this little eating joint, and those two little gals were out there, and we got to talking to them. So we caught the bus to take them home out in Alhambra, and that was in an area where the Zoot Suiters were pretty thick. If you remember the Zoot Suiters, or you ever heard of those?
No.
They were the guys with the chains and the.
Okay.
And so they were hitting up on guys and robbing them and so forth. So we got out there, and God just helped me from getting involved anymore. But this gal wanted me to come into her house, and she was hot to trot. And we fiddled around there a while, and we finally left. And the buses were all stopped. So we had to start walking, and it was, I don't know how many miles out to Alhambra, but we started walking, try to get back there in time to catch that bus to Camp Pendleton. And that was down there by 6th and Hope Street, and where all the gays were hanging out. I'd always heard of a cocksucker, but my brothers, when they was working on machinery, and say, "Come on off of there," it had a wrench trying to get him out. "You cocksucker, come off of there." You know?
Right.
I just thought, what in the world's a cocksucker? But I found out down there, these guys come up and tried to make you down there on Hope Street before we got a bus to go out. Wanted to take me up and treat me to steak and this and that. So I wised up to them what was going on there, and I always managed to get back in time. A couple of times we just got back at daylight, and they were just taking roll call, and we were still down the hill a little ways, and we could hear it. We'd even hear her name called out, and we'd say, "Yay!" out there and down the side of the hill. But I always made it back in time, and I was a good Marine. And so
So let's get back to Hawaii. So you're in Hawaii. How long are you in Hawaii for?
we got in Hawaii, must be about the 1st of August maybe. I don't remember. I had a chart with all my dates and everything, and I don't know what happened to it. I loaned this to my niece, and she claims she gave it back to me, but I don't think I ever got it back from her. But
So you got there in about August. So when do you leave Hawaii?
we left Hawaii in January.
January,
next
maybe?
January, yeah.
Yeah.
Really in December the 30th or something
Okay.
in there. But
So you're training the whole time in Hawaii
oh yeah, that old.
because you know your next stop is not going to be a friendly place.
Yeah, and it was that old volcanic soil there in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and so that was a good place for us to get used to that stuff. And it got to, had about as much trouble with dust there in Hawaii as I did back in Kansas with that old dust.
You like deja vu.
So anyway, we were loading ships down there, and about the 23rd of December, and I got a Christmas card from my aunt, and she said, "I'm so sorry to hear about your father. That's so sad." And I didn't know what she's talking about. And my mom had sent me a letter and a telegram the night he died. He got hit there with that drunk coming down the road. And so anyway, I sent a telegram home that night there from Hilo and said, I said, "Mom, what happened to Dad?" And she sent me a telegram right back and said, "Well, Dad was killed in an accident, August the 15th or so, and a letter to follow." Then in the letter she sent me another letter and a telegram prior to that, but it just never got to me.
Right.
When he got killed back in August. So we were getting ready, all lined up to go to chow, and he walked out there and said, "Whipple, I need to see you in my tent."
Who's he?
Snodgrass, the first sergeant.
First sergeant, okay.
And Snodgrass, he went into the tent, and I followed him in, and he handed me that telegram, and Mom had sent me there, and she says Dad was killed August, whatever it was there, and buried, and a letter to follow to explain, and then she explained that she'd sent one prior to that, but it never got to me. So I teared up and cried a little bit, and then I kind of got dried up, and we went on out, and the guys called, my eyes were red, and they always wondering, what's Whipple getting called in for? He's never late or never overtime, never got drunk and couldn't make it back, and
right.
He always plays orders, and he gets up in the morning, and they were all puzzled too why I was being called in, and I was wondering. And so we walked out, and the old First Sergeant Snodgrass said, he said, "Listen up, guys." They had all broken rank and gathered around me. He just went after he said, "Listen up, guys. Whipple's father was killed and buried 2.5 months ago, and he just now found out about it." And that's when those guys just circled me around. And that's when Bill Johnson came in. I'd known Bill quite well, but he was in field music when he was and worked in the office, and we'd always have to get our liberty passes from him and so forth. And he came up to me and said, "We're having a fellow from Guadalcanal going to be sharing how he was confronted with God. And he's going to be leading this inspiration, so would you like to come over? It's over in the old intelligence building tonight. Would you like to come over?" And I said, "Yeah, I would." And so I was really eager. I wanted to. Every time I heard anything that I thought would help me out, boy, I was looking. Because I just wanted to know the question that the Philippian jailer had when he said, "What must I do to be saved?"
Right.
That's just what I wanted to know.
Right.
I knew Jesus had died for me, but I didn't know how to appropriate that to my sin and to my salvation. So I went out there, and that kid, he gets up, and boy, he's anointed by the Holy Spirit, and he really makes it plain. And I just sat there gasping, why in the world didn't somebody tell me this before? So the next morning, old Bill Johnson came by my tent and said, "What'd you think of that last night?" We had some rocks out in front of our tent to kind of make a little pathway out to the main street there, kind of. And we were sitting on those rocks, and he said, "What'd you think of that last night?" And I said, "Well, Bill, that's what I've been looking for all my life." And I think I really understood it after this guy gets done over there last night. So there were some questions I had, and I asked old Bill, and he just went through the plan of salvation again and helped just crystallize things, and said, "You know, you wouldn't come into my house without an invitation, and I wouldn't come into yours. And God won't come into you until you want him to. And if you want to invite him in, he'll come in. I said, I want to invite him in. So he said, well, you just tell the Lord that and ask him to come in. Tell him you know you're a sinner and you thank him for dying for you, and ask him to come into your life. And you want to commit yourself to him. And so I did that and prayed, and boy, I was a new creature. I really felt like a new creature, and that was the beginning of things. And I started on a new road. It was a totally new road to me. I just wished I'd have known it before, because
Right.
so many opportunities I'd had before. But so anyway, that started the ball on the ball rolling, and then a few months later, when down in December, while we were getting ready to ship out, and I was down in Hilo loading stuff on a transport, and tents, and I don't know what all else we were loading on that day, and it was hard work, I know. Boy, we were sweating, and so just a few days before is where Bob Hepperly came in. He came and joined our outfit he joined our outfit as a replacement to replace guys that, like me, that was going to get hit. And I just always dreaded the thought of being a replacement, because you go into an organization and you don't know anybody, you don't know any of the routine of what they've been
Sure.
doing in training, and you're just there as a dumbbell. And I said, I'm going to help this guy all I can, and I just became his friend, and we did everything together, and I introduced everybody to him and told him what they were doing, so he'd kind of have an idea of who was who. And so when we got ready to ship out for Hawaii in the next day or two, or to Iwo, we were going to have to stop in Honolulu. We got over to Honolulu, and they said we're going to have to stop here to reshift some gear that should go to another outfit that's on the wrong boat, and get the gear to where the people are. And so we're going to have Liberty this morning. And I said to Bob, Bob, you want to go on Liberty with me this morning? And he said, well, I'd like to, but I have a brother that's a Navy aviator here, and I want to see if I can find him. And I said, well, I found 3 of my brothers all at one time here, and we had all 4 of us were together. And maybe I can use some of the things I learned on that to help you find your brother. He said, boy, that'd be great. Let's do it. So he and I went on Liberty, and we found through the Red Cross, we found his brother quite quickly, and we sat around and talked to him for a while, and finally Bob said to him, well, I'm going to have to leave pretty quick here, but he said, I just want to say goodbye to you, because I'll never see you again. I just know I'm not coming back. We didn't even know where we were going at that time. And he said, I just know I'm not coming back. And I and his brother tried to convince him that his chances were just as good as anybody else's. And I think he not knowing anybody and all had part of the thing to do with that. But he was just convinced in his
Right.
mind. He there's no question about in his mind that he wasn't going to live through that. So we went back, and sure enough, old Bob, when I got hit, he was signed to the team to take my place. And the guys that were with that team told me later that they were in an up front position several days into the Iwo Jima, in an up front position, and Captain Austin was kind of cueing them in for that day, what they needed to kind of be looking for and prepared for. They were near out to the front of the north of the island there. And Bob Hepperly had been sick that night, and they'd had their lines cut, and he was supposed to have been the one to go out and find where the Japanese had cut the line. And they'd send a couple of riflemen with us, but it was always kind of spooky going out there, because those guys
Sure.
would cut the line, then they'd sit back and wait for us to come fix it. And they had the advantage because they were hidden and
Right.
knew where we'd be coming in from and all. So anyway, I think that was on his nerve. I was nervous about that, and then he just wasn't feeling good, and so when Captain Austin was up there talking to him, he couldn't hear him very well, and he kind of raised up in his foxhole and stuck his head a little higher than he intended to, and there was a Japanese guy came up to there was a spider trap just a little ways off of where these guys had their foxholes there. And that was a kind of a cylinder, just kind of a hole came up from the tunnel. And these guys would climb up there, and there was a lid on the top of that place was covered with a rock that looked like the rest of the stuff. And
Right.
and he had raised that lid up just a little hair, and just enough to get his rifle barrel out of there, and he shot Bob right in the helmet, right through the head. Splattered his, and this is what one of the guys told me, splattered his brains all over everybody there sitting in it. And old Captain Austin grabbed him, jumped up and grabbed him and held him in his lap just as tight as he could hold him till he quit quivering and shaking and going through the throes of death.
Yeah.